Today we're going to look at the settings on the Macintosh for people who have difficulty using their keyboard and mouse. We're going to go to the System Preferences, and we're going to go back to Universal Access. Under the Universal Access, we'll see the Seeing, Hearing, Keyboard, Mouse, and Trackpad buttons at the top. Today we're going to focus on the keyboard and the mouse and trackpad. We'll start looking at the keyboard settings. There are a couple of different options that are very useful for people with physical disabilities. First of all, there's sticky keys. Sticky keys, when turned on, allows you to see which key combinations are pressed and allows you to press them in sequence instead of all at once. So let's take a look at some of the options here. One, I can turn sticky keys on or off by pressing the Shift key 5 times. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it turns it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it turns it back on. This is useful for people who might need this ability some of the time. I can have it beep when a modifier key is set. I can also display the pressed keys on the screen. This is also very useful as it lets you see which keys are pressed and shows you whether they're still active or not. Let's take a look and see how this works. I'm going to press the Command or Apple key down, and you'll see it lit up over here. Then I'm going to press the Option key, and you'll see that came up. Then I'm going to press Escape, which brings up the Force Quit application screen. Go ahead and close that. That's the basics on how that works. Now let's take a look at people who might have difficulty pressing keys and the delay in between when the key is pressed and when it's accepted. We can turn slow keys on. We can let the key sounds click as they go on, and then I can also choose how long of a delay it is. Let's take a look at that. I put a long delay over here, and I'm going to go into Word and press the letter D. And there it came up. And I'll press it again, and you see it came up again. Now I'll make the delay shorter, and I'll press D, and it comes up faster. Somewhere in between, there. Now if I press D really quickly, like I just did, you'll see nothing came up at all. So I click D, and I have to hold it down for just a second to get it to come up. I'm going to go ahead and turn that feature off for now. And I'm going to show you where the rest of the keyboard settings are in OS X. We're going to go back to the System Preferences, showing all of them. We're going to go to the keyboard and mouse settings. We're going to go up and take a look at the keyboard. And you'll see in here we also have some other options. How long does it take before the key repeats? Well, we can make that very slow if we want. So I press the D, I've just had it held down, and you can see it's repeating more slowly. I can set the key repeat rate fast. And now you can see how quickly the D's come across. I can put the delay until repeat shorter. And you see they repeated right away. Now I'll make the delay long. You'll see when I press the D, I'm still holding the D down. It took a second. But since we had the key repeat rate fast, it still went quickly after that. I usually keep mine kind of in the middle. This isn't really part of ours today, but just a few other things here is you can allow the F1, F2 keys to work as standard function keys. And you can also have the keyboard illuminated when the lights are low. This is only on a laptop. All right, let's go back to Universal Access. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the mouse and trackpad and the different options we have there. In the mouse and trackpad area, you'll recognize that we've been here before. when we looked for seeing difficulties and visual difficulties, we changed the cursor size down here for people who have difficulty seeing the mouse. Today, though, we're going to look at for people who have difficulty using the mouse. So what we're going to look at first is mouse keys. If I turn mouse keys on, then I can use my numeric keypad to move the mouse up and down and sideways, and together you can do it diagonally. You can turn mouse keys on or off by pressing the Option key 5 times if you check this checkbox here. Just like with the keyboard, we could turn sticky keys on or off by using the Shift key. We can change the delay and how long it takes the mouse to move. We can make it shorter or longer. We can also change the speed that the mouse moves, making it slower or faster. We can also ignore the trackpad when mouse keys is on. Go ahead and leave these at their standard settings for now. The last place we're going to look at today is we're going to go and look at the mouse settings under keyboard and mouse and the trackpad settings. Under keyboard and mouse, you'll see that if you have a mouse attached, you do get options. In this case, I have the standard Mighty Mouse, and I can make a couple different setting changes here. These are useful for all kinds of people who might have difficulty using the Mighty Mouse. The primary button is this left area on the mouse. For those of you who haven't used the Mac much, even though it doesn't look like there's two buttons, there are actually two buttons on the new mice from Apple. And as I click with the side on the right, I can choose to either have it be a secondary button. In other words, it works just like a right mouse click. That's how I usually keep mine. Or I can have any of them be the primary or secondary button. So I can switch that for left-handed people. I can also change these settings. Some people still like there to only be one mouse button. So if I switch this to be the primary button, that enables that to work. Expose is a little feature that lets the Mac show all the open windows. And on this mouse, it's set to use the two buttons on the side of the mouse, here and here. But for a lot of people, that sets it off by mistake, and it gets fairly annoying for them. So we can turn that off if we'd like. We also have a little track ball on the Mac mouse, which will work regardless, but what we can do is we can set it to be a button or not be a button. And I can have it be the primary, secondary buttons. I have the same options as I did on the other. I can have it go to spaces. I can have it be the application switcher. So if it's the application switcher, now I can when I click it, it brings up the other applications, and I can actually use the ball to move them around. It's convenient, but again, for some people that's just an extra hassle and a bother, so they would rather have that turned off. There we go. Let's take a look at the last set of settings for people who are having difficulty using their input devices. Let's take a look at the trackpad. Trackpad settings have a lot of different settings. You can use 2 fingers to scroll, but this can be difficult for some people. What that lets me do is if I make a longer document, as you can see over here by the scroll bar, it's down towards the bottom now, I can actually scroll up just by using 2 fingers on the trackpad. Very convenient. However, for some people it might be difficult to use, so I can turn that off. I can also allow it to go sideways or not go sideways. I can zoom in to my screen by holding the control button down and then scrolling in. I can allow the trackpad to be used for clicking. So once that's on, now I can just tap on the trackpad instead of having to click with a button. And I can do dragging. But I really don't like either one of those features because I find it gives me a lot of accidental ones. I'm just not that good at it. Some people really like it. I do really like this feature, which is if I want to use a right click while I'm using the trackpad, all I need to do is put 2 fingers on the trackpad, just like I was doing to scroll. But instead, in this case, I put 2 fingers down and then just press the button while keeping my fingers still. I'll show you that over here in Word. I right click there by just holding my 2 fingers down on the trackpad. Alright, well that is it for our lesson on the settings of mouse, keyboard, and trackpad, particularly for people with physical disabilities.